I'm thinking about taking my channel in a more educational direction. I'm studying cybersecurity at the moment and haven't really had the inclination or time to play video games, but I'd still like to be making content, so let me know how you feel about it in the description. So today we're diving into the basics of digital forensics, how you can learn forensics yourself, and using it to bypass screen shares. So let's go check it out. You can define digital forensics in this context as the process of examining a user's system to detect cheats or hacks by analyzing files, memory strings, processes, and other digital traces left in the many Windows services. But really, these skills can be applied to many different things. Bypassing and screen sharing for cheats are both forms of digital forensics, so when I say digital forensics, I'm referring to screen sharing and vice versa. I'll be going over how to get into bypassing or screen sharing. Really, they're very similar. In order to learn how to bypass, you need to learn how to screen share. However, I will not be going over specific bypass methods or screen share techniques beyond what I need to use for examples or demonstration. And if you actually want a good starting point or just want a guide without digital forensics, I sell bypass methods and a screen share guide in my Discord, and I also have previous videos on specific methods as well. Let's start with the top of the coin, which is screen sharing. Screen sharing is analyzing various system logs to build a timeline of what the user has done on their system prior to the screen share. An easy way to think of it is that each screen share method is a way to check a different system log, and through these system logs you can view what the user has run, anything they might have changed or modified since boot, and build a timeline of their actions. It's essentially a scavenger hunt, and you're looking for a specific file run log for their cheat. Most people think that you need to have really advanced knowledge and become staff on a server, which is really intimidating, but really it's very simple and can be easily learned on your own system. I only staffed for a couple small servers in my screen sharing days, and what I really enjoyed was figuring things out on my own. So let's start by running a cheat, but really this can be any type of file. Spotify, Discord, whatever, and just running it. Now, by running this program, our system has logged that action in many places. So let's go view it. So first, how do we know what to check to view that execution on our system? You need a method, and a method is just a guide that tells you how to check that specific system log. And there are many methods, and sometimes they require a specific application. Two of the most useful are Void Tools and Process Hacker, so let's go install those. Now that we have Process Hacker and Void Tools installed, let's go check some of the methods. So this is my private guide, which I do sell inside of my Discord, but you don't need a private guide. Everything can be easily found online, and one of the best resources are discord.gg/screenshare. They have extensive lists of pretty much tons more methods than you could ever need, and this is a lot of stuff. So let's focus on a specific subcategory, and let's start with Process Hacker. So these are all of the services that you can query in Process Hacker and return strings that could be useful for finding your program execution. So let's start with one of the most basic, which is PCA client. And to do this, they have a really great guide, and it's in Spanish, it's in English, and it's also in Portuguese. And now we can just follow these steps and do the method and check what's there. Let's go check this out. So it tells us to query the explorer.exe, which is an active process running on your computer. So we can just double click this. We can go to the memory tab. It should be on general by default. And here we can actually see when this was started. So our explorer.exe, you know that this is generally started with your Windows, and if this time does not match up with how long your system has been started for, then we know that they have restarted the Explorer process. And the way that we can check how long a user has been signed in for is going up to here and clicking on properties, and you can see exactly when I was logged on. So yes, those times do match up, so it means that the Explorer process has not been restarted. So for memory, it tells us to query for PCA client, and the way that you do that is by dumping the explorer.exe process. And they have a guide on how to dump, but basically you're just going to press strings, and you can either do two of them. You can do 4 and check image and map, or what I like to do is just query 5 and leave image unchecked. You can press OK, and now we're querying for PCA client. So we can just type in filter, contains case insensitive PCA client. And now we want to dump this, so we can do that by pressing the save button, and let's just save it to, say, our desktop. And now we can view this in a text pad. Boom. So these are all of the last 9 programs, I believe, that have been executed. And you can see our music.exe, which is vape v4, was executed here. So now we can check out this file and investigate it. So first, what we want to do is open up the file location. And a lot of the times what people will do is they'll like to open open this up and they'll like to hide this file. So you can, they can hide it by applying certain attributes. For example, this is plus hidden and plus system protected file. And we can do music.exe. Whoopsies, I spelled that wrong. A trib. There we go. And now if we see, this file has now disappeared. So we can look at this and say, this log is saying that music.exe should be here and it's not right here. Well, there's kind of two things that we can check. One of the things that we can check is we can check what happened to this music.exe, and we can check that using the USN journal, which is basically a log of all of the system actions performed on files. And we'll view that later. But the other possibility is that this file could have been hidden. So we can view the hidden files by checking hidden files, but wait, it's still not here. And that's because I added the system protected attribute. And that means that we have to go to options, view, and scroll down and uncheck this hide protected system file. And bam, now we can see that music.exe is now here. So I just showed you a screen share method to check the log. And I also showed you a bypass method by putting these attributes on it to make it invisible by default. Now, another thing that you could do is you could say, hey, I'm looking for music.exe. I'm wondering if music.exe is still on the computer or if it's been deleted. And to check if it's still on the computer, we can use this tool called Everything. And Everything allows you to instantly search every file on your computer, and we can see that music.exe is here. Now, if you were going to approach this from the view of a bypasser is basically trying to say, okay, I'm trying to hide this program so that it doesn't show up when people try to look for it. Well, we could say, okay, if people are going to use Everything, because that's a very common screen share tool, what I could do is I could just try to figure out how to hide it from Everything. And so you could, think of something quite sneaky, like you could say, okay, I want to exclude system files and folders. And because we attributed the system protected attribute to music.exe, now it will no longer appear when we search for it. So it's searching again, and we can see there is no more music.exe. I can't find it anymore. So that is kind of the premise for everything revolving around screen sharing and screen share bypassing. So now let's check some other things. So from what we know about the Windows system, you kind of need to learn and kind of read the documentation, or kind of just try by doing and learn by doing, which is the way that I like to do it. So you kind of need to learn about how Windows works. And one of the ways that Windows works is whenever a file is run, more specifically an executable is run, it'll generate a prefetch file. And this prefetch file, it has a bunch of metadata, which we can use another program to access later. And this basically is just a file log saying, hey, this program was executed and here's some info about that execution. So that is a big problem for bypassers, for example. You need to bypass the prefetch, you need to bypass these certain logs, you need to bypass people looking at event logs and seeing you changing things. So those are all things that you need to bypass. It's kind of like a circle of like you trying a screen share method, and then if it's detecting your cheat, then you need to kind of rethink how you're doing that and integrate a bypass into that. So I'm gonna make this viewable again, and I'm also going to disable show hidden items, because this will show a lot of things that your system kind of puts there and you don't need to know about, so it's kind of just invisible, and we don't need that right now. So I think it's important to also talk about the second part of screen sharing, screen share tools. And screen share tools can automate some methods for you, like checking service restarts, checking basic logs, and stuff like hardware ID and Minecraft accounts. But where they really shine is in cheat detection through strings. So whenever you run an application on your computer, it leaves strings specific to that application and many different processes. And even more if that application is a cheat that is interacting with another application, say an injection cheat for Minecraft. Well, today's sponsor, DetectAC, is the best Minecraft screen share tool built by developers with over 8 years of experience in anti-cheats and forensics. DetectAC is crafted specifically for Minecraft, detecting cheats like drip, karma, vape, lite, and more across any version. And the tool catches advanced bypasses, including FAT32 modifications and injection detections that other tools miss. With regular updates to stay ahead of the latest bypass techniques, they also prioritize your privacy. Only one session pin is active at a time, auto-deleting after 1 hour or upon command. And unlike other tools, DetectAC never stores or scans unnecessary personal data. Keep your system secure and private with confidence at DetectAC, linked in the description. And you can use my code when purchasing, spec, all lowercase, to let them know you came from me. Thank you. All right, so let's let's say to prevent this music.exe from being found, I'm actually going to just delete the file. It's not here anymore. So they can't find it and say, hey, you have music.exe, which is vape on your computer, and I see that you ran it. Now the file is gone. So let's use another check besides just PCA client. Let's actually do viewable files, like which have you viewed. So these are kind of files that you have viewed, and we actually just want to sort for exe in this context because we're using an exe. So we can see that music.exe was actually viewed. So it's popping up in here as well. So now it's not here, and I'm as the screen sharing, I can't really prove anything because, well, you know, the file's not here, so I don't know if it was a real cheat or not. So what can we do? Well, we can look at our fsutil, and let me get a couple commands right here. So I'm gonna run cmd, and I'm gonna run this as admin. So I'm going to put this here, and actually, okay, let me do cd desktop, cd users. Let's go here, and I'm actually just gonna modify this, so it's just putting it on my desktop. And this will take some time because this is actually taking all of the system's file actions for the last long bit, and believe me, this gets quite long, and it's dumping it into a text file, which is something that we can read. So I'll bring you guys back once it's done. All right, so it's just completed, and looks like we have the document. So this up here is the furthest back that it extends. So we actually want to go to the latest, and as you can see, this is a lot. This is just a lot of data. Luckily we do know that this is music.exe, so we do know the file name, so we can search for it. Looks like, yes, because this is vape, it generates crash logs, but also we should be able to see that okay, looks like there were dumps being created. This is a specific detection for vape. Vape tends to crash a lot. It'll create dump files, and you can search for these dump files, and if you see these dump files, you can say, hey, I know that this client creates dump files, and then you have a better idea of what the client could be, in addition to potentially finding the file name in the first place. If we want to see where this file was created in stores, this was created in the crash dumps, and the crash dumps is one of my methods listed inside of my private bypass guide, because a lot of clients will crash and then they'll leave their dump files here, and then this is really easy for being able, this is a telltale sign that you're dealing with a client that crashed. So we're actually looking for the music.exe that we deleted. So you can see this is the prefetch file. It's not being created or deleted. It's just, you know, it's changing its attributes, just listed as security. So yeah, this is actually like just so much. So this is like it's very hard to find that the file was deleted, and that's because this is the entire journal. Now I ran a second command which should dump only the file deleted stuff. So this only shows files that were deleted, and if we go to the bottom, we should be able to find music.exe, and there we are. We can see that the file was deleted, and this is reflected in the USN file journal. So yeah, you could ban somebody off of this because it tells you exactly when it was deleted. And next, let's move on to the prefetch. So we have the prefetch file created, and let's actually view more of that. So let's go to the top of my bypass guide, and let's download a win prefetch view. So this will allow us to view all of the prefetch, and you can do that normally, but this allows us to view the attributes of that prefetch. So I'm just gonna run this, and by the way, Nersoft has some of the best tools for digital forensics, so I would highly suggest just looking at a whole bunch of Nersoft tools. They can allow you to do a lot. Is this thing gonna run? There we are. Just a little bit slow. Just a little bit slow. Okay, cool. So let's do it by created time. Actually the other way around. So we're looking for music.exe. Yeah, okay. So yeah, we can see right here that this it doesn't have a publisher, and it doesn't have a logo, which is kind of a telltale sign that this is more of a custom exe. This isn't really a program. And you can kind of see a whole bunch of stuff here. I'm not going to go into it. This is a telltale sign. This is the master file table, and the master file table it's very useful if you're a screen share, because it it kind of logs a lot of information. It's a little bit finicky to access, which is why a lot of people try not to view it. But this is, and it just has so much data. But let's say that we wanted to, let's say that we called the program Spotify.exe. So it's a bit harder to view. Like inside of the prefetch, if you're just searching for Spotify.exe, how can you verify that this Spotify is the real Spotify.exe and not just a cheat that somebody named Spotify.exe, because it doesn't show you the file location. Well, this is where this comes very in handy, because if you see Spotify, you can kind of look at this and be like, oh, okay, here's the program path, and here it has a logo, so it has some metadata, and we can compare that with music.exe, which if we name Spotify.exe, it would be very easy to tell that that one was an imposter. But what if we did something like, what if we cloned the attributes of Spotify.exe into music.exe, which just for this example, let's say that we name Spotify.exe. Well, we could do something like this. We could do type. This is the file for which attributes we want to be reading, and we're putting that into, I think it's this way, and we're putting that into our music.exe. So we're grabbing this and we're doing it in there. And actually this needs to be inside of the prefetch CMD. So oopsie, CMD. Is it because we're searching? CMD. There we go. Okay, finally in the right path. Let's just paste this into here and see what happens. Okay, so we've now cloned the attributes. So now if we refresh our prefetch and find music.exe, we can see that now this actually has the attributes of Spotify. So it has the Spotify logo, it has the program path of Spotify.exe, and now we've just disguised our prefetch. Anybody looking at this will say, this looks like Spotify.exe, and it's leading to a different program path from music.exe, which is our original cheat. So that's really cool. All right, so let's check out another service that we can use to kind of check the system. So why don't we use, and I'm pulling this straight from my SS guide, which is again sold on my Discord. So if we want to open this, looks like unable to query memory, access is denied. And that's actually because this is a system process, and we are operating in user mode right now. So we need to upgrade this to administrator. And now if we type in diatrack, we are able to access it. So we're going to use strings map 5, and I'm going to just pull this straight from my SS guide, but we do regex case insensitive, and we're pulling this, and this is basically all of the hard drives. So right now my main drive looks like it's hard disk volume 4, and this is a lot of stuff, so we kind of want to simplify this. So let's check our users folder. So /users, and boom, this is a much smaller list, and boom, we can see that music.exe is listed there. So how do we prevent this? Well, there's honestly a million different ways to go about it. I'm going to show you one for an example. So let's say that I need to download vape.gg again. Let me just sign in, log in, and let's say that I want to download it. So I'm just going to download this to my downloads, and we're going to open this up again, and we're going to call this vape.exe. Yeah, why not? We're going to move this to the music folder. But what I am going to do special about it is I'm going to get a Unicode character. So I'm just going to use, let's say, I don't know, Chinese character, or let's just do invisible character. Let's close this. Yeah, why not? Let's just copy it. So now you can see I'm pasting an invisible character, and let's rename our vape.exe to contain this non-Unicode character. So now let's try to run it. Let's see what happens. So it runs as normal. Let's go back to Explorer, because it's really easy to see. Let's go to if we remember back from the guide, Explorer, let's do viewed file. So file ://. Let's just do let's do the first part of vape, because the VA should be uninterrupted, and we want .exe because it's a .exe. Okay, looks like this is actually still showing because we viewed it, and that's before we changed it. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart our explorer.exe service, and then I'm actually going to rerun vape.exe. So this just cleared our logs, and this is now a blank canvas for us to work with. Let's see if it's still there. File //.exe, and we can see it is not here anymore. Why is it not here anymore? Well, the way that this works is this is reading directly from your memory, and It's basically stored in, if you guys are aware of how binary works, each ASCII character is kind of put into what's called a byte, which is 8 bits, which is 8 zeros and ones. And because this is a special character, it's not really listed there. So it'll actually split the string. So it's actually still here, but as you can see, it's just /VA, and then the string is split. So there's a few ways to get around this as a screen share and a bypasser. So bypassers, me included, used to use this a lot. Pretty much just put a Unicode character between each letter. So this would show up as an empty directory, and you know, that wouldn't flag anything. And this is relatively new because, you know, I just restarted my explorer.exe. There are methods to detect that now. You can do Unicode comparison, which is a feature in Process Hacker 3. I'm on Process Hacker 2, which does not have Unicode support. A couple other things I wanted to show off. First of all, so we've talked about the operating side of things, but what about the network part? Because if you think about it, a lot of cheat providers, they're not just going to allow you to run the cheat, right? They want to authenticate that you actually have an account, because they don't want people cracking their program. They don't want people running their program offline. So they're going to require that program to make certain calls to the internet to validate credentials and etc. for security purposes. So we can actually view that. Here's one of the tools. This is called, what is this called? This is prefetch view. My bad. We're actually going to want network usage scanner. So I've actually already downloaded it. That is not it. I've actually downloaded it right here and we could run it. So yes, we want to run this tool in administrator, and let's see. All right, so we can sort this by, let's just say the timestamp, and we're looking for music.exe. So we can see that yes, this is listed here, and we can see some info about it, and we can see pretty much the reason why this is being captured is because it's sending and receiving bytes. That's causing it to, you know, have some network usage. We can also use firewall.cpl, and these are a list of your firewall settings. So vape, a lot of the times, and other cheats as well, they'll add an entry here, which is just basically, it's just defining some type of rule. So whether it's like allowing their stuff, and we can actually see that right here. We can see music.exe. If you're just seeing an exe by itself, there's a good chance that, you know, it could be a cheat or it could be something worth looking into. Let's see, we can also we can use NVIDIA. So we can use stuff that people have installed themselves on their computer and like just is not very well known about. So if we open control panel, we can go to manage 3D settings. You can go to program settings, and this is a very useful thing because it'll show your recently used app. So right here we can see music.exe very clearly. This is really cool. So how would you go about preventing this if you're a bypasser? Well, you can kind of think about it this way. Like these programs, where are they being stored? This is probably being stored because it's from an application. It's probably being stored in a file, because this is not something that you'd want to be just in memory. So you want this on a file. Well, you could find that file and you could give it a certain attribute. Like you could say, make it so that it's read only. So basically that means that nothing can write to it anymore. People can just read to it. Well, no new entries are going to be added, and that means that your cheat's not going to be added, but it's going to appear like this is working perfectly fine. So that's an idea for a bypass. We can look at other things, like for example, inside of Windows settings, if we go to network and internet, we can do data usage. So this is something that just lists like, okay, what's been connecting to the internet, what's been using your data. And if we scroll down, we can see music.exe. Would you look at that? It's listed here. It's listed in so many different places. And you can think, well, how could I prevent that from happening? Well, one option would be to find the related service, which is basically, because this is being run through a specific service, or specifically it's a driver. It's being run through a driver. So we could do DUS SM SVC, I believe it's this one. So this is the data usage, and so we could put this to, let's just say, disabled. So now it won't start up with your system, and it's not tracking that data usage anymore. So you can see that there's so many different things that we can do in terms of screen sharing, checking things as screen share, and you know, figuring out bypass. You can find a way to bypass each and every single service. You're also going to learn a lot about how Windows work kind of backend to do this, and you're going to learn a lot about that. So if we open up alternate stream view, and let's just say we wanted to run like, let's just say the music folder. So we can scan it. I don't think I did that properly. What is the view root here. Let's see. Boom. So yeah, let's try that. Oh, okay. Okay. So it's not identifying any ones for these. Let's see if I can just browse to make sure that this is proper. Actually, let's just do the download folder for now. So let's scan. So we can see that these basically they have something attached to them. I think we could see this if we go to downloads and then do like I actually forgot how do you show like everything there, like everything including stuff that's hidden. I don't remember. There's basically a command that'll show you exactly everything inside of this folder, and you'll see that these zone identifiers, they're kind of like helper files, so they'll be right next to the file, and we can basically use these for data, like they store extra data, and we can also delete them. So this is deleting the data that's attached to them, which makes it a lot harder to find certain things. So something else that we can do with Process Hacker, we can search for the browser, and because we went to vape and we downloaded something, it actually is going to appear here. So what a lot of screen share tools will do is they'll query your browser strings, and they're looking for common cheat sites. So for example, because I visited vape, this is listed in memory very clearly. It shows that I went to vape. All the strings are here, so you can get a pretty good idea, like, hey, this user might be using vape. But also you can do some other cool stuff. So this is a method. I'm not going to go into it, but this is basically your downloads cache, and you can just fuck around with these. You can find a whole lot of really cool stuff. You want to go and explore it yourself and kind of just like understand how things work, and then eventually you can use your knowledge to kind of reason like, okay, how might we detect this, and then also how might we kind of bypass that detection. So that's kind of all of the basics to digital forensic, and I hope that I've inspired at least one of you to go check out this wonderful hobby. Truly, it's so cool, and it's so applicable to other things. So I think that's going to be it for today's video. I didn't want to make it too long, and I hope it's not too long, but I hope you all enjoyed, and have a great one. Adios.